Welcome to the Needle's Eye Faith and Work Show, a show that aims to help Christian professionals grow in Christ, find your purpose, and transform your workplace. I'm Jeremy Woltz with Needle's Eye, and I'm sitting down with working men and women to find out how their faith impacts their work. Today, I'm joined by Tim May, travel agency owner, entrepreneur, and husband. Well, first and foremost, Tim, thank you very much for being here, drinking our delicious room temperature water and having a good time here talking. Do me a favor. Can you just give me like a brief biography of you? Because you've been at Richmond your whole life, right?
Yeah, all but 3 years. I'm a Richmonder.
Okay. So just give me like quickest introduction. Who are you? What do you do? And like, what were you like as a kid?
Tim May. I live here in Richmond, Virginia. I live in the Churchill area, neighborhood. I was born in Los Angeles. I'm 40 years old. I'm 40 years young.
There you go.
40 years young. I was born in Los Angeles. My mother and father both went to college out in Los Angeles. They did not want to raise a family in Los Angeles.
Okay.
They prayed about it. They both independently landed on Richmond, Virginia in their prayers.
Okay.
So we moved here to Richmond, Virginia.
Like by name? Like they both were like
Virginia, and they were like Central.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They were both landed on Mid-Atlantic. Then they went back and prayed individually, and then it was Virginia. And then they were like, yeah, Richmond, don't you have some family in Richmond? And then they landed on Richmond.
Interesting.
Yep. So I'm the oldest of three. My sister is 3 years younger than me, and then my brother is 3 years younger than her. As a kid, I got a quick story I guess I can tell you. My first grade teacher called my mom one day at school, at home from school, and was like, Timothy is doing well. He's doing well. His grades are well. He's getting all of his spelling test questions correct, and he's behaving correctly, and but I've got a little bit of a concern about him. And my mom's like, okay, what is this concern? Mm-hmm. And Miss Gwaltney, she was a great teacher. I'll never forget her name. Miss Gwaltney says, "Why is Timothy so serious?"
Oh yeah.
Years old. And it just I was a serious, and I've always been a serious person.
Have you broken out of that, or are you still you serious adult?
I'm adjusting.
There you go.
I'm turning the radio dial a little bit to get
Okay.
But mainly, I'm a serious person. That's who I am. Yeah.
Do you feel like you come to that honestly, or was it like, no, man, I had a rough first 6 years, or whatever it was, so now that I'm a sixth grader or a third grader,
No, it's really just over time, just. Wanting to, just adjust, and make adjustments. But I am who I am.
Fair enough.
About business, just about business.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of my great childhood. Mom and dad, who were still together to this day, 40 plus years of marriage.
Wow.
Godly example. My father was a minister of a church for 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
So I grew up in the church. My mom decided, she was college education, she decided to stay home for 12 years and raise myself and my two siblings before she went back to being a professional. So, I had a, decent upbringing, played sports, graduated from University of Richmond after graduating from Richmond Public Schools.
Okay. You Richmonders.
I'm a Richmond.
That's in your blood,
It's in my blood, yeah. My University of Richmond was closer to my home that I grew up in than my high school was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I literally went to college closer.
Yeah, that's
to my
funny.
house than my high school. So yeah, and today I own a travel agency, and I service exclusively current and former professional athletes and their families. So that's kind of what I do professionally.
Yeah, kind of a unique little thing. That's cool.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, first off, thank you. That's like a very helpful kind of view, and we get you're a super serious person.
Yeah.
But right before we started talking, you were talking about how, even this morning, you had this time that you set aside and you were talking to God and you were reflecting over how far you've come. And then even hearing you talk about your background, like your history, it shows that like your family has a super intentional approach to going to God and letting God decide for you, right? So you guys aren't saying, I want to do this. God, come with me. You're really taking it to God and saying, God, what do you want? We'll follow you. So all that full circle, you talked about how even from 12 months ago, 18 months ago, God this morning was revealing to you enough about how you've changed your posture that it brought you into tears. Is it okay if I ask you to get a little bit more specific and tell me, like, what are those shifts? I mean, 12 months is not a long time.
Yeah.
A lot can happen, but like it's also kind of a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So what shifted in the last 12 months that time with the Lord just today made you feel that kind of emotion?
Yeah. Well, I devote time in the morning. Mostly the first thing I do in the morning, I get up and I thank God. And I spend time with him in prayer, in the word, and to be still. Sometimes I sit there, I just say, Lord, speak to me, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
I love to hear what you have to say. And, a lot has changed in the last 12 months. And this morning, just spending time with God, he started to reveal some of those moments from the past and how far he's brought me and how things have changed. And you're right, a lot can change in 12 months, and I'm a new creature, right?
Right.
I'm literally a new creation, and I can die daily. I can die to
Yeah.
this self just put my flesh aside and be more in the spirit than I am in the flesh. Is always a prayer. My Lord, help me to just flow in the spirit more than I flow in this fleshly sinful body, you know? And so I was just thinking this morning in my prayer time and just spending time with God. I was like, man, thank you so much for being faithful and being patient with me. Because about a month and a half or 2 months ago, I also was having another one of these moments, spending time with God. And I had actually realized that really probably 4, 5 years, 6 years prior to that, I had actually been leading God as opposed to God leading me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, talk about that.
So the image that he gave me, and again, it's what brought me to tears, is I was actually in my own God giftings that he's given me, but in my giftings and in my talents and in my will and my intellect and in my soul, I was going about doing whatever, business, relationships, church, serving, all these great, amazing things. But I was leading. And God gave me this image that what I was doing, although I was doing some good things, I was actually dragging Jesus on the cross behind me as I was doing these things.
Yeah.
And it brought me to tears because it was like, the scripture's like, Lord, Lord, I've done these great things in your name.
Yeah. I never knew you.
I never knew you.
Yeah.
And I was like, Lord, I'm giving to your people. I give my tithes and offerings. I'm faithful in church. I serve. I come home every day and I love my wife. I don't go after other women. I'm honest in business. I employ people. I sacrifice. I pay them before I pay myself. I go on missions trips. I do these things. I volunteer and spend time with people. And God he gave me this vision that, yes, those are great things, but more than anything, I need your heart.
Yeah.
I want your heart.
Oh.
And he just reminded me through that vision of what that was. Because I actually come to a breaking point. So what happened 18 months ago? That's really kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, please.
What happened 12 to 18 months ago? So I talked to you a little bit about, 5, 6 years prior, I'd been dragging Jesus on the cross behind me.
Right.
Okay, like he's my little brother. I have a little brother, and sometimes my mom would say, take your little brother with you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my relationship with God was. Yeah, he's there. If I need you,
Yeah.
I know you. If I need you, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I move out of our house. We have this beautiful home in Churchill. My wife, Rachel, her grandmother bought the house in the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
And we're third generation. So we're the first in the family that, to really take a liking to the house and have some money to do something with it. And so we buy the house. So we move out about 5.5, 6 years ago, thinking, okay, it's going to take a year for this home to get renovated. So we move out and then we hire a contractor. We do our vetting process. We hire this contractor and he was a crook. He stole $65,000 plus dollars
Oh, it's a
cash,
nightmare.
just stole money from us, schemes and things like that. Then his business partner came in almost like the guy was like, oh, you know what? I'll help you guys out. He's a crook. Let me help you guys out.
Yeah.
He was in on the scheme, so we hired him, and we
Oh,
realized early on that he was actually part of the scheme to kind of come in and be the savior.
right.
And we caught him after he stole about $10,000 to $15,000 of us
Gosh,
there.
man.
All the while we moved out. We've got this renovation loans. We're paying a mortgage. We moving out. We're paying rent to live somewhere else in a home.
Yeah.
We're paying a monthly storage on 2 units. So we're talking $1,500 to $2,000 on top of a mortgage. We're not rich people yet,
Yeah.
like on top of mortgage and all these other things we've got going on. And so we've learned that contractors don't like coming behind other contractors. And so you've got, takes 6 months to find another good contractor.
Yeah.
Well, that's 6 more months you're out of the house. And so, next thing, 2 years turns to 3.
Yeah.
And then this doesn't work out, and then this doesn't work out, and then you start running out of money because it's like, well, the project is now starting to cost $100,000 to $150,000 more than what it was budgeted,
Right.
to cost. And then this isn't working right, and then this isn't working right, and then you've got CV19, and I own a travel agency, and now less people are traveling, and I've
Yeah.
got to lay people off,
So
and
this is just like everything's piling on.
everything is piling
Financially,
on.
that's got to be total insecurity.
Because my gifting is business and creating income and money, and that's where I'm gifted in, right? And like none of this stuff is working. And then the house is just nothing is moving in the house. And then I make a chunk of money and I'd gotten to it had been 4.5, 5 years. Literally, we were out of our house, and I was traveling on business, and I'd created some decent money in business, and I said, all right, I'm going to invest this $35,000 in this house. This should get us over the hump. And I remember I did that, and it was like throwing a rock in the ocean. It didn't even
Oh,
it's a
man.
dent,
Yeah.
a dent. And I come back I was in Mexico, so I come back and I call actually my wife from Mexico. I said, I am not living in a rental property anymore. I'm moving back into the house. Now, let me tell you the background story. We didn't have our plumbing completed.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't have running water. We didn't have a toilet set up. We didn't have electricity.
Yeah.
I was so done. I was literally so done, Jim.
I'm like physically stressed listening to this. I can't fathom.
I literally said, I'm going to fly in from Mexico. If you want to meet me, we will stay in a hotel for one night. I am not living in a rental property again. I'm not doing it anymore. So we move in. Jeremy, there's no running water. Jeremy, this is 18 months ago, Jeremy. I'm walking out of the door of my house, and I am literally brushing my teeth from a bottle of water outside in my backyard. When I need to go to the restroom, Jeremy, guess where I'm going? I'm walking outside to the porta potty that the construction people work to use the bathroom. This is 18 months ago, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I said, God, I've done all these things in your name. I've aspired to live a righteous, holy life. I've done these things. What is going on? And I actually sat down and I wrote in my journal, the first entry in my journal. And for the first time in my 38-year-old, 39-year-old at the time life, I said, Lord, for the first time in my life, I don't know if you're real.
Wow.
I've gone to church.
Big moment.
I've served you. I've done my best. I don't know if you're real. So if you are real, please reveal yourself to me.
Yeah.
It was a surrender moment. And it's so amazing how God starts to work. Because it wasn't suddenly, but over the course of the next few weeks to months, God started to reveal to me. I was there the whole time.
Wow.
There are things that I'm going to bring to you that I can't elevate you to or bring you to because the posture of your heart wasn't right. You were going to do it in your own will and your own gifting.
Yeah.
But where I want to take you, I need your heart first. I don't want you to fall the way others have fallen.
Yeah.
And so I started to get closer to God, and I started having a hunger and thirst after him and spending more time with him. And it wasn't about prosperity. It wasn't about health. It wasn't about any of those amazing things that I love and enjoy and that are fruits and that are benefits. I just wanted to be just like him and have a relationship with Jesus. And so I started to seek him. And so fast forward into this morning, he just continues to remind me of where I was 12 to 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And just how good and how faithful and how patient he is. And it's just something I love to share. I'm just so excited about where God is going to take me.
Yeah, that's incredible. And honestly, I mean, Tim, I've known you, off and on over the last probably not quite 2 years. So right around the time you're going through this, I knew none of that.
Yeah.
I had no clue that you were brushing your teeth out of a Dasani water bottle or that you were going to a port. And I can't even fathom what it's like for your wife because she'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
And
we showered at the gym.
Wow. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, man, I don't know a whole lot about, the travel industry as a whole or pro athlete travel or, any of that stuff. But I always assumed that from the beginning that it was something that you were producing and that was able to, with a level of prosperity, take care of your household.
Yeah.
And you're saying...
And we were. But when you have on top of a mortgage and on top of payroll and on top of all these things, you pay your employees. That's business ownership. You pay your employees to make sure they're taken care of. And if something is left over, then when there's 3 and 4 and 5 and 9,000, contractors don't want $1,000. They want $10,000 at a time or $20,000 at a time. Well, that adds up over time. And so, yes, there's income coming in through my business, but when there's $6,000 or $7,000, $8,000 a month, that's over and above that.
Yeah.
It runs out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It runs out.
Yeah.
And so, it's just and all of it came at once.
Yeah. So what's fascinating to me, what sticks out is what you're describing is your God-given talents. You were using those, right? And that's something we talk about when it comes to faith and work a lot. God has given us specific talents and interests and abilities. And if we can leverage those for work, we know that we're kind of leaning into his will for us. You were doing that. And still, even though you were using God-given talents, you weren't using them with the right heart. So even though you were experiencing, the God-given talent-based success, your heart wasn't in the right posture. You weren't truly serving God, allowing him to direct you. So even though you had the talent, without the heart, it still didn't add up. Yeah. It still didn't make sense. And you would not consider that success.
That's right.
I think that is a really crucial point. And that's not something I would have thought about before this, but hearing you talk about that, you need the talent. You need to lean into who God made you. But you need to lean into who God made you, coupled with a heart that is bent to serve him first.
Yeah. Keeping Christ at the center, not dragging him along and he's just a part of what I do. He is the whole. Yeah. I'm a part of what he's got going on.
Yeah.
He just made it so, he made it so clear to me. He said, I've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
I just want your heart. I don't want you to serve in the church and then give your heart to me. I want your heart first. Yeah. I don't want your tithes and offerings. I want your heart first. I don't want you to treat your wife better. I want your heart first. I don't want you to work harder. I want your heart first.
Yeah.
And I started to understand as I started maturing, spending more time with him, is now I understand if God is going to elevate me and take me to different places, he wanted me to get that fundamental thing down first.
Yeah.
He didn't want me to get too far down the path because, Satan would love for a follower of Christ to be super successful and not have a foundation and then to get carried off into these other things, get carried off into work or get carried into this or get carried into that. I'm doing it in your name.
Yeah.
And then just start 1 degree, 2 degrees, just start getting off the path.
And then over time, you miss the mark by such.
Satan would have loved that.
Yeah.
And God said, nope, I'm not even going to allow your giftings to get you out of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you surrender first.
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna start speaking to you. And he's been speaking to me ever since. And it's just, I'm so grateful for it. I don't wish it upon anybody.
Yeah.
But I can have these conversations or talk with anyone, and you can tell I'm convicted about it. It's only God can
Yeah.
do it. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it because I'm a different person.
Yeah, that's awesome, Tim. Thank you. Really. Well, look, you've covered a lot, right? What you shared already is, you peeled back a lot of layers in order to let us see in, and I'm grateful for that. I think when I really invited you here, I was like, all right, cool. We're going to talk about his travel business and a little bit of how his faith impacts his travel business, and we still will. But your story at this point already is so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
What God is doing in you, the faith that He is cultivating within you, the surrender you've experienced, that by itself, man, like that deserves a whole video to itself. So maybe another time we'll have to say, all right, we're only talking this. But I do want to ask, right? Because hearing you, your passion, your excitement, like it comes through. You say you're a serious guy. I believe that. But like you are animated and you're charismatic and you're clearly excited about this. So I want to kind of channel that to ask you, like, you were born in LA, but you lived in Richmond your entire life for the most part, right? Why'd you go into travel? Like, it just seems like a weird industry for somebody who lives in his hometown.
Yeah. Travel found me.
Okay.
So graduated from University of Richmond. I was blessed to have had a job that was offered to me right out of college. And so I worked in the nonprofit sector for a little bit. And then from there, I said, I want to do something different. And so I started to work at just a major company that does cigarettes. I think that pretty much tells you what the name
Fair
is,
enough.
right?
All right.
So I did that, and then I remember coming to my mom and saying, I do not want to do corporate America. I don't fit in. There's all these protocols. There's this, there's that. It wasn't the right fit for me. It's a great fit for other folks. It wasn't for me.
Sure.
And so I did something I should not have done, and that's quit.
Yeah.
I should have stuck it out and, thing like that and then waited for something else to come, but I quit. Well, I was thinking, all right, well, what is open 24/7 that I could work a job at night so I could interview for jobs during the day? So that was kind of my way of my mentality at the time.
Sure.
And so I said, well, there's like things like 7-Eleven. No, I don't want to work there. There's gas stations. No, I don't want to work there. Hotels are open. Okay, that's professional. Okay, so I took my resume to a number of different hotels, and they said, "Oh, you're college educated. Here, hired." Like they just wanted somebody. I mean, this is a $12 an hour job. This is not this is not some super professional job. But I was just looking for something at night, and so I was what's called a night auditor. Basically, you work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And again, it was so I could interview for jobs during the day.
Yeah.
Well, within a week or two, they're like, man, you can speak, you're good with people, you understand the systems and everything like that. And so I did that for a while, and then they actually promoted me to be a manager of a sales manager.
Okay.
And I just, helped bringing in new business and things like that. Then I got hired to work for another hotel. And then from that, I moved on to working for a company that deals with travel insurance. So when people go on a trip and they spend thousands of dollars, it's wise to, buy a travel insurance policy.
Sure.
Because, they don't take your health insurance in another country. So, you just want to kind of be sure, to protect your investments. So I worked for that company, and then I got recruited from there to work for a travel franchise company where I was flying around the country, showing travel agency owners how to be more profitable in their businesses. So that's where I started to kind of get some insight into the inner workings and the mechanics and the operations of how a travel agency works. Because you would think, all right, well, you could book your travel online. What is the value of a travel agent or travel advisor? And I started to see the inner workings of how when you work with a travel professional, there's all these added values that you get versus if you were to do it on your own.
Right.
But I was also able to see kind of who was profitable and who wasn't profitable, what business mix made a business profitable and who fell by the wayside. So when the economy was going down, what part of the demographic, if your business was made up of folks in this certain demographic, your business went down with it, as opposed to some others, their business was rolling because it didn't matter because their demographic had money and time.
Yeah.
And so I was able to learn kind of how that worked being from there. well, after I was their top salesperson for that, I loved it, right? I just loved it. I was single, just flying all over the country, eating good food and gaining weight and
Yeah.
all that stuff like that. And then I remember, I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. And then after my 30 year working there, I got married and was learning how to be married. That takes
It's a big
time.
shift,
That
yeah.
takes time.
And traveling a lot while doing
And traveling a
that.
while, yeah, it's just like, And then I remember that boss that I had, he got promoted to work for a different department. And I love him for what he did. He said, he called me, he said, Tim, they're going to make some shifts. You're going to be one of them. I just want to give you a heads up. And so I was laid off.
Wow.
Actually, I was fired. I was
Fascinating.
fired. Top salesperson.
I was about to say, do you
top
know
salesperson, all that. We were doing business a certain way. A new hotshot guy came in. He didn't like it how we were doing it,
Yeah.
and he just decided to go in a different direction.
As illogical as that is, right? That's a door that was slammed on you.
It was,
right?
yeah.
So you weren't looking for a change. You weren't trying to transition.
Not at all.
That was totally thrust upon
Yep.
you. Okay.
Yep. So I remember I had $10,000 in the bank at the time, and I remember my wife came home because I worked from home. My wife came home and she was like, I got some news for you. I said, I got fired today.
Yeah.
And just a sign of how awesome my wife is. I didn't see any fear
Wow.
in her eyes. I didn't see any hesitancy. She said, okay, well, I know God's got it and I know we've got it.
Yeah.
And I just said, all right, well, what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, I'm going to apply for a ton of jobs at the level that I was at and above.
Yeah.
In the meantime, what I want to do is I want to go out and I want to be in business for myself. And so what I started to do was I did those things, and she was in agreement with that.
Sure.
And I'm thankful for Rachel for being in agreement with that. So what I did was I immediately got on it. What I started to do was I started to reach out to travel agency owners who the majority of travel agency owners at the time were between 50 and 80 years old.
Okay. So older demographic.
Older
Yeah.
demographic. Many of them were going to be looking for an exit plan. I had learned that while I was working at the company I was working at. So I said, wow, I have all these contacts. Won't I start to help travel agency owners who are looking to sell their business and connect them with those that want to buy? And I just charge them a percentage fee, like a travel agency business broker. And I started to say, well, who out there does this right now, specific in this industry? There was one company that I could find in the entire country that's what they specialize in. And I was like, if this guy can do it, I can be a tenth as good as this guy and make a full-time living. That's what I did. So I started helping these folks. And I remember my first sale, I didn't even charge anybody. I just wanted to see if it would work. So I did it, and I did it for free. I said, okay. Then the next time I did, I said, I'll just charge you $2,500. It's like, that was pretty simple. Same amount of time. I mean, $2,500. That's not a lot of money, but when it's your first business, and your own business, and your own
proof of concept too.
Proof of concept. Like, okay, all right. Same time, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start charging a percentage. And so I started charging a percentage, and next thing you know, I'm making $20,000 and $25,000 and $50,000 and $60,000. I remember one time I made $118,000. It's like, they say, all right, well, send me your form, and you give them your wire instructions. And it's like, you see your account going from where it is. It's like, and you're like, okay.
That's surreal.
Like, all right. And it's business, right? And God has given me a gifting for business. I'm very grateful for it. And it never fazed me. I didn't go out and buy a new car. I didn't do any of these things like that. I didn't, buy a bunch of stuff. I left that money in the bank for a year and a half. So it didn't really, it was just business. I started to realize, though, as I started to help these travel agency owners sell their business, the pool of prospective clients started to shrink as well.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was like, I've got to do something different. And so what I did was I started to take some of the money that I was making as a travel agency business broker, and I actually started to buy up my own clients' businesses.
Okay.
And so how my travel agency came about was I actually bought up 5 of my travel agency clients' businesses.
Yeah.
I knew how to evaluate them because I would help them to sell their business.
Sure.
I knew which ones are profitable. I knew where the margins were, things like that. And I rolled them up into one operation.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how that started.
Yeah. So while you're doing this, right, because this was your plan B, right? Your plan A was I'm going to apply to all these other jobs the
Yep.
same level. So what was happening there? I mean, did you stop that?
Nothing. I was getting interviews, and I don't know if maybe I'm not the greatest interviewer. Maybe it wasn't for me. I was getting interviews. I was talking, and just I wasn't getting offered any. I wasn't getting offered anything.
Okay. Well, I just think because you've now kind of traced some of it, and it's your plan B that's worked every time so far. I just think that's fascinating because your plan A was your plan B was let me find something that I can do at night so I can apply to jobs during the day.
Yeah.
But it was your night job that led to your success in even learning this travel stuff.
That's right.
Then when you get laid off from that, it was, well, look, I'm going to apply on that level, and let me just see if I can do some of this stuff on the side. That's what led to really what you're doing now.
You're right.
I just think that's fascinating.
Which is interesting because, and I think I shared this with you, Jeremy, and so we did corporate travel and university travel. And 5 employees, just money, money rolling in and just blessings, right?
Right.
And after doing that for 2 years, I'm laying in bed, and I cannot make this up. At 2:34 in the morning, and I will continue to tell this story to anybody who will be still enough to long to listen, because it is the story. At 2:34 in the morning, God says, your travel agency is going to be known nationwide for servicing professional athletes, current and former, and their families.
So that just came to you. That wasn't like, man, I want to work with these people. Oh, I idolize some of these folks. That just came to you.
Just came to me.
2:34 in the morning.
God gave me a vision for it. I wasn't looking for anything different. What we had was fine. We were growing. I was adding employees. I didn't know any active professional athletes. I knew 2 guys that played in the NFL. One was on a practice squad, and one had already retired. He had played 2.5 years.
Okay.
So I didn't even know.
Were these like friends of yours? Like, how did you even know these guys?
I knew of them,
Okay.
Yeah, I just knew of them. But we weren't homeboys. I had to, I had to reach out to them.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a text message. And so, but yeah, 2:34 in the morning, guys like, you're going to be known for servicing professional athletes and their families. So I get up and I'm like, okay, what do I call such a company? Like, okay, like this is 2:34 in the morning,
Yeah.
Jeremy. Like, all right, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I have a business. I'm fine with it. Things are going well. What is this plan B, right? What is this? What is this? So I'm like, and I don't think I'm the most creative person. So I'm just thinking, all right. And I'm on GoDaddy.com because that's where I buy my past domain name. So
yeah.
I'm like, all right, maybe, professional athletes, pro athlete, travel. Pro athlete travel. That's real simple.
I was going to say, you can't be more direct than
It
that.
can't be more simple than that. But this is 2016.
Okay.
Every domain name has already been taken unless you're willing to pay someone hundreds of thousands of dollars for a domain name. So certainly proathletetravel.com is not available. It cannot be. It's 2016. Search box, proathletetravel.com. Still available.
Wow.
I buy it. I said, oh my goodness. Okay, it's 2016. Certainly on Instagram, the handle pro athlete, come on.
Yeah.
Certainly is not. Pro athlete, it's available. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, this stuff is like really coming about. Again, I don't know any professional athletes than these 2 guys, and they're not even playing. And I just started posting photos and videos of travel.
Yeah.
And after talking with these 2 guys, I realized that the athletes themselves weren't my target audience. It was the wives and girlfriends, the ones that really control the checkbook, the credit card when it comes to things at home, the groceries, the travel. And so we started to connect with some of them and sponsor events and different things like that. And we've spent really $0 in paid advertising. I mean, we've never sent a single email as far as email marketing, and our business is just,
That's incredible.
we've got clients from all pros to minor league baseball. and we treat them all the same.
Yeah.
We give them love. We give them love. We service them,
That's
VIP
awesome.
treatment, stuff like that.
Well, so the moment you bring pro athletes and things, right? That's a level of fame and celebrity and all that kind of stuff that comes with it, right? I've never heard you name drop a single client, right? Like every time I think about the echelon of your clients, and I talk with you, I think, man, there's a level of humility that you exude because you're not name dropping, you're not bragging, you're not going around telling people, I did all that. You are always so even keeled about it. And I just, there are a couple of questions I have on this, but one of them is just like, how do you keep your feet so planted to the ground and stay humble with the success you've had and with the clientele you have?
It wasn't my idea. God gave it to me. I didn't prospect these folks. Someone through word of mouth, because I served this person and I gave them my best and how I treated them. And when they said their budget was 35,000 and I found what they wanted for 15,000.
Yeah.
That community is used to people trying to spend as much of their money as possible.
Yeah.
But they're people too.
Sure.
They're humans too.
Yeah.
And so word of mouth just word of mouth. And this person just attracted and talked to this person. And it wasn't like, oh, it's the most amazing trip, although I hope it was. It was probably, you can trust Pro Athlete Travel.
Yeah.
You can trust Tim. He's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kept me in the position where I am, and where I'm just humbled that people would allow me to service them. Like I had I didn't never see myself doing this.
Yeah.
Never saw it. So that's kind of the reason why.
That's fascinating. That's awesome. But I love what you said. It wasn't even my idea.
Yeah,
I love that.
You get a phone call, hi, is this Tim? Yes, this is such and such and such. And it's like, I used to watch you on TV.
Yeah.
Or you just played in a game last night. Like, it's just like, but it wasn't my idea. It was, God gave it to me.
I love that. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. So even kind of working on that, because the way that you're describing this, there's a level of integrity you bring to your business. There's a level of valuing the dignity that every human being has, right? Yes. Like I think all of that is crucial, and that's all very gospel, biblical centric. But I'm curious. God gave you this idea. God told you you're going to be known. Your company's going to be known for this. So as you've now built this and been in it for years, where do you see your faith permeating the way that you go about your work? Right? You're intentional about it. You've talked about so many things that you do where your faith has driven you. So I want to know the same thing here. Where does your faith permeate the way that you do this business?
It's everything. I gave the example of, I ask my clients what their budget is, what their desired budget range is. And they say, well, it's this. And it's never my intention to say, all right, well, I'm gonna make sure I spend up to that level. That's comes from my faith.
Yeah.
How I work with these individuals. Make no mistake, God has plans for me to influence.
Yes.
My clients.
Sure.
To influence their children, to influence their make no question about it. And I know God is working on me in ways and getting me in those places for me to do that and to begin to do that. I can give you a simple example. One of my clients, her husband is a coach for one of the NFL teams. Let's just put it that way. And her mother was sick with cancer, and it's been going on for a while. And she's a travel client, Jeremy.
Yeah.
But 95% of our conversation is me pouring into her and encouraging her and letting her know that God's there for her. And just putting aside, she called me for the travel.
Yeah.
I need to take a trip because I'm grieving, because I know my mom's gonna die. My mom's in. 95% of what we talked about was me pouring into her and putting life and encouraging her. Mm-hmm. That comes out of my face. See, if it was about $1 or about business,
right,
I would brush that aside and just say, well, yeah, you do need to take a trip because that's your way of, that's your therapy. That travel is your therapy. And it can be therapeutic, no
Sure.
question about it. But that's not where God was leading me in that moment. It was to pray for her.
Yeah.
It was send her email or send her a text message. I was thinking about you in my quiet time this morning. I was praying for you. And it's so interesting how this was going on for months. And I remember it was here recently, Jeremy. I sent her a message. I said, everything is going to be okay. I was thinking about you. I was praying for you this morning. God's got you.
Yeah.
And she sent me a text message 4 hours later. And she said, my mother passed away peacefully by my side today. I didn't know she had passed.
Yeah.
But see, I had been spending time with God and just connected in the spirit that my clients they're more than my clients.
Yeah.
And so I know God's positioned me to influence in some way. And I'm excited where God's going to be
awesome.
taking me.
Yeah. I think that is a beautiful, remarkable perspective. And the open-handed nature that you have of saying it wasn't even my idea. These clients aren't transactions. They're people that God has brought to me. I think just that whole perspective, and of course the integrity, of course the excellence, of course all the other things that you bring to your job, that helps. But the perspective of it was God's in the first place, and He's bringing people, not clients, people.
That's right.
I think that's fantastic. Let me one last question. We'll get out of here, okay? But I just want to know, you've talked a lot, and I know that you have a clear passion for what you do, clear passion for the clients. There's so many things that you got kind of lit up about. Where do you think that you find your real joy? Is it through the work? Is it through your marriage? You tell me, where do you find real joy?
18 months ago, it was in my work.
Okay.
It was in my accomplishment. It was in my to-do list.
Yeah.
It was into checking off, crossing up, done. It was hitting a goal. It was hitting a whatever. That's not where my joy comes from anymore. My joy genuinely comes from my relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's where my joy comes from. And everything permeates out of that.
Yeah.
And so when I hit that goal, it is literally all glory to God. That's where the joy comes from. When I'm like, man, like my wife and I, our marriage has gotten better. It isn't, I've read a book or I went to a marriage conference and I took notes and I start putting in those technical things. And all those are great.
Yeah.
It was I spent more time with God, and God showed me grace and mercy and patience and long suffering, all these fruits of the Spirit. And because I'm now enacting those things in my marriage, praise God, thank you, our marriage is better.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my joy now, is spending time with God.
Yeah.
And now living life through that. That's where I get my joy from.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks, Tim. Really,
No,
this has been
thank
awesome.
you.
I appreciate it, man. Hopefully we'll talk again. And even if it's not on camera, I just want to go hang out with you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Needle's Eye Faith and Work show. Please share, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode and want to see more. Needle's Eye is a faith and work community based in Richmond, Virginia. We are a non-profit organization that seeks to help working people grow in Christ, find purpose, and transform the marketplace. Check out Needle's Eye online at www.needleseye.org. Here, you can find more content, check out upcoming in-person events, and learn more about partnering with us financially.